Hi guys, bargain store project time again. In the comments on bargain store project number 21, Nick Lenna asked if I could make an airplane or a boat. So in project number 25 I converted my rubber band powered car into a rubber band powered paddle boat, so that I've made a boat for him. And when I did that I thought, I wonder if I could make another paddle boat. So this time I'm going to try and make a paddle boat out of this pop bottle. The justification for this being in my bargain store project is that these bottles of pop cost me about, I think it's either 17 pence or 19 pence. They're the cheap value pack, so that's under £1, so it fits into my project. What I'm going to do is use this as the actual hull, stick a paddle on the back of it, and use a rubber band motor attached to the side to actually drive the paddle. That's the theory. We'll find out if it works. Right, one problem that I will have is keeping it upright in the water, because it'll tend to roll around the wrong way. I just happen to have this rather nice metal bar. I'm not quite sure what it's made of, but it appears to be chrome. If it's not chrome, then it's steel. But all I'm going to do is stick that to the bottom to give it some weight, and that should hold it upright in the water. But I won't do that quite yet. I'll do the rest of the build first and then stick that on at the bottom afterwards. And I'll also put some sort of a rudder or a keel on it to keep it going in a straight line. But the first thing I'll do is build the paddles, and what I plan to do there is use a couple of CDs, roughly that sort of distance apart, with the paddles in between them. To help me mark up the positions of where I want the paddles, I drew this circle quite a long time ago actually. It's the same size as a CD, and then I've marked on it the 6 points so that I can just put a CD on there and draw lines joining those points up, so I can mark up points on the CD without having to do any clever construction work with a compass or anything actually on the CD. Right, I actually taped the two CDs together so that when I drilled the holes they're going to line up, and then I can put my barbecue skewers through, cut them all to the right length, and I'll have my paddles. Now, to attach this paddle that I'm going to make out of these CDs to the back of the boat, the pop bottle, I'm going to have a couple of my barbecue skewers taped to either side of the bottle, sticking out the back far enough to allow for the CDs to fit there, and tape a couple of tubes either side. I'll cut up this ball pen, so I've got a couple of little tubes for the actual axle that's going through the middle of the CDs to rotate on, and the axle, which will be this bit of cane, will stick out a bit further on one side so we can actually attach the rubber band to it and wind it up. It's easier to do than explain, I think. Right, this is my barbecue skewers. I've just put a bit of tape round there and a bit of tape round there, clear tape, so I can expand the end like that, and then the tube's going to fit through it, and I'll put hot glue on it to hold it in place, and then that will be my axle bearing, and then that gets taped to the side of the bottle. Not quite sure how clear this will be, but I've got a bit of plastic, clear plastic. I'm holding my barbecue skewers in place. I've got my stub axle sitting there, and I'm going to put some hot glue around it, and hopefully that will hold it all in position. Just need my hot glue gun to warm up, and then we can do that. Alright, don't know if that's any clearer now that I've got the hot glue on it. When that's cooled down, I'll trim the plastic from around the edges, and that's our axle tube. Might put a little bit more hot glue on it, that might be enough as it is. I tend to over-engineer things and put too much on. That's probably enough. While that hot glue is cooling down, just looking at the pop bottle, you'll see it's got a nice seam going right the way round it, so I can use that to line up these, whatever we want to call them, axle supports. And also I will need to drill a hole right the way through at the front to put another barbecue skewer through to actually attach the rubber band to. Okay, that's our axle tubes and whatever we want to call these pieces, chassis, bodywork, frame, whatever. They're in place. Now we need to get on and make the paddles. So first thing I'll do is do my usual, glue some milk bottle tops into the middle to use as hubs for the wheels. I've already drilled holes in the middle so that I can push my axle through it. Right, that's temporarily put the CDs in place, so now I can easily measure what distance I need these barbecue skewers to be, or what length, so that I can use them to position the paddles. That's my barbecue skewers in position. I haven't glued them in place yet, they're just a push fit at the moment. Right, I've cut a couple of strips out of that pop bottle. I shall now cut these up into individual paddles and hot glue them in place. I'm gluing each of the paddles into the centre first. In other words, onto the axle. And then I'll glue them to the barbecue skewers next. So they're all in the middle. I need to glue them to here. Let's try the first one. Just hold that one in place for a second until it cools down. Right, they're all glued in position. Feels quite heavy at the back here, so I might need to put some balancing weight at the front when we actually try and float it. Right, same technique as last project. I've wrapped a paper clip around there and hot glued it in place, leaving a little spike sticking up. I've actually put one on both sides because it's occurred to me that I could have two sets of rubber bands either side to drive this. I'm just going to go and stick it in the water and see what sort of weight I need at the front to balance it. Well, that's handy. That metal bar I was talking about at the beginning of the project seems to balance it quite nicely. I've just taped it in place, so I shall put some rubber bands on this and give it a test run. Okay, we're not going to go very far because we're only testing it in my bath, so no point in winding it up too far. But let's see how we go. It's actually picking up speed as it's going. But there we go. Bargain shop project number, oh gosh, I've forgotten again, 26 I think. We've made a rubber powered paddle boat from a 2 litre pop bottle, a couple of CDs and some paddles made from another pop bottle. And we got rubber band motors up either side. I haven't wound it up very far because there's not much point, because it can only go the length of the bath, but it does that quite easily. It goes quite slowly, but it gets going. I think if I wound it up a bit more it would go a bit faster. I suppose I could wind it up a lot and just have a go. It's difficult to do it one-handed. I suppose I could always put the camera down. I just don't want to drop it in the bath. So there we go. Project finished. I would appreciate being able to go out to somewhere with a big pond and demonstrate it properly, but I'm afraid that's not possible at the moment, so you'll just have to make do with it going about, what's that, 3 feet in my bath. You can see it's still going, and I've only wound it up a very small amount, so I'm quite pleased with that. That's working. So I hope that's appreciated. I have made a boat from scratch.